Hey, hi developers, Shahenshah back here with requirements to develop a holographic application. Microsoft has come up with a new device called Microsoft Hololens, which is amazing device. You can check out the official videos of Microsoft Hololens. So there are multiple .NET developers are interested in developing the applications for Microsoft HoloLens. So this is a virtual reality device, and what are the requirements to develop? There is a confusion and many people are asking many questions about requirements for developing the Microsoft HoloLens applications. Microsoft has given a page where you can see what are the requirements in the page called install the tools. So coming to the system requirements, before that we need the following things to develop. So what are the things required to develop a Microsoft HoloLens is Visual Studio update 1 or update 2. So let me go ahead and let you know what are required. So softwares required: Visual Studio 2015 update 1 or 2. So you can get a free community version, which is great, and you don't have to pay a single penny from your pocket. So this I have downloaded the community edition and started developing the Microsoft HoloLens applications. So I would recommend go ahead and get the community edition for free. And then you need to this is the main part, and this is required as well. So coming to this HoloLens emulator, if you don't have an HoloLens device with you, then you should have a HoloLens emulator with you. So HoloLens emulator, if you have a HoloLens device with you, it is not required to have an emulator. You can directly install your applications to the HoloLens devices itself. But at this point, Microsoft has released its HoloLens Developer Edition only to the developers who has applied and got the invite, and it costs nearly $3,150 along with tax, which is a huge amount, and many developers doesn't have this option to go ahead. Neither the money or either the invite, they don't have it. So I would recommend for those guys who don't have the HoloLens device, they can go ahead still develop the Microsoft HoloLens apps with the help of a emulator. And I have tried this emulator as well, and it's believe me, it's the same as the device. I have both device and emulator. So the only problem is the working of this emulator will be much better understood only once you have the device. But still, once you get familiar with this emulator, you will start working and knowing things better. So emulator is an optional one if you have device. And then next, coming to Unity. So Unity is for designs, animations. So Unity is an optional one to develop a holographic application. So if you need to develop a 3D application, an animation application, I would it's required to have learn about Unity. But don't worry, without Unity also you can develop a HoloLens application. So I would say this is optional. So now these are the softwares required, and coming to the requirements. So coming to requirements is like whatever I know of. I would say you should have the website, what the website says. So the website says you need to have Windows 10 Pro, 64-bit and 4 cores, 8 GB RAM, and in the BIOS you should be having the virtualization support, SLAT, DP, and it would be better to have a GPU. And you should be ensuring the Hyper-V feature should be enabled. So now coming to requirements, I would say first requirement will be Windows 10 Pro. So Windows 10 Pro, it generally costs you around $30 to $199 in the market. So if you go to buy from the Windows Store hard CD, then it will cost you around $199. But there are websites like Bonanza where you can get for $30 you will get a license key, genuine license key for Windows 10 Pro. And this is a must for the development of HoloLens device applications, because it has a Hyper-V option. Hyper-V Windows feature, I would say it's a Windows feature which is available only in Windows 10 Pro, and to make sure it is not available in Windows 10 Home. So you should enable this feature. You have to enable this feature, and this can be done from Windows features. So once you have Windows 10 Pro, go to the Windows features and enable this Hyper-V option. Enable the Hyper-V option, and you should be having obviously a 64-bit Windows, not 32-bit. And then you need to have a 8 GB memory to run this. So here comes I have tried with a 4 GB RAM, but the emulator itself takes 2 GB of RAM. So 4 GB of RAM, if your system is having 4 GB of RAM, you won't be able to run the emulator. So 8 GB RAM is suggested, is required for developing an HoloLens application. But here the point is, if you need to run it via emulator, you need to have 8 GB. So if you have a device, you don't need 8 GB of RAM. You can even have 4 GB of RAM and just go ahead and develop the application with Visual Studio and directly install or deploy into your HoloLens device. So 8 GB of RAM is required to run emulator. 4 GB is fine if you have device. And then coming to the other option is BIOS settings. So BIOS settings, you need to have BIOS settings of virtualization on. So by default in most of the latest processors, this virtualization is on. I would suggest you can at least have Intel i5 or i7 or AMD A10 quad core. This is suggested, but the issue is that it works even on dual core. So right now I'm developing applications with the help of a i7 dual core 8 GB Windows 10 features. So if you have a dual core machine, you don't worry, even the emulator, Unity and Visual Studio works on dual core as well. So, and coming to the graphics card, it is suggested to have a graphics card so that the emulator works faster. If you don't have any graphics card, then the emulator will be working very, very slow. So I see even with my latest configuration PC of i7-6500U processor and having a graphics card installed, it is still taking a little while time to start the emulator and to deploy things in the emulator. So if you have the device, you can directly go ahead and install it or deploy it in the device rather than having it in emulator. But if you don't have device, it is must to develop it in emulator and need to have a high configuration machine. So Windows 10 Pro plus dual core plus i5 plus BIOS setting plus 64-bit sorry, it's a 64-bit, and Hyper-V option. So you should enable this Hyper-V option plus 4 GB of RAM if you have device. This is the minimum requirements if you have the HoloLens device. If you don't have the HoloLens device, then you need to have, these are the minimum requirements. I'm saying again, these are the minimum requirements: BIOS plus 8 GB of RAM if you use emulator. These are suggested. i7 8 GB quad core for the faster processing. Emulator. And again, one more thing is you need to enable developer mode in both the PC and device. So developer mode should be on in the PC and also on the HoloLens device in order to deploy the applications on the PC or on the device. And then you can check out my other videos where I have given a description, or I have developed a simple application, holographic application, and deployed it into emulator. And also you can check out my other videos about review of HoloLens and usage or walkthrough of HoloLens. Thank you.